I'm Dan from HValley Tools, and today we're going to be showing you another bit to help with some miter joints for long panels. This time it's a 2-bit part, a 2-bit set, which is the rabbeting miter bit. So the difference of the lock miter and the rabbeting miter is, for long grain, this 2-bit set is a little easier. You get a little bit less tear out. There's a lot of glue surface area. So what you're looking at here are these 2 bits, where when you cut out the material, they meet like this. So you have a lot of glue area. It's still hogging out a decent amount of material, so you're still going to want to use it in the router table. The nice part, still has a setup block. So one side is for one of the bits, the other side is for the other. It sets up the same way as the lock miter bit, where you just raise it up until it hits the block, and then you move the fence in until it hits the edge, and you're pretty much set up. So setup is actually really, really simple for this. It's standard for 3/4 material, so it's ideal with 3/4, but you can go down to 3/8 material, down to 3/8. The only real adjustment there is that you move your fence a little closer until it hits a cutting surface, and we'll kind of get into that during the setup. But this is a great set for long boards, because another difference compared to the lock miter is, with the lock miter, the first cut was going to be flat against the fence like this. The second cut had to be kind of on edge. So for long pieces, if you're standing a foot, 2 feet away from the router table, it's going to be difficult, even with feather boards and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be difficult to really get pressure against the fence and hold it down on the table during that cutting surface, especially with the amount of material that is being hogged out. So for this operation, you have the 2 bits, so it's one extra step where you have to put the bit into the router and set it up. With this block, it makes it easy, but you still have those 2 steps. The only difference now is that both mating edges are going to be flat against the table. So it's just an easier operation. You can have one feather board holding the material down. So for long stuff even, it's just a lot easier to feed it through and get that mating surface. So we're going to go through a little bit of the setup. We'll show you a joint, and then we'll show you how easy it is to use this router bit set. Okay, so we're going to set up the first bit in this set. So we have it in the router. We have our plate. Again, remember to leave enough room with the plate. This is a pretty wide bit. You don't want to be scratching that, or it's going to be a bad time. So you got this set up. Take your block, match which bit this is for the profile. So you see that cutter head right there. That is going to be the same shape. And we're pretty much there. So if you can see, that cutter head right there is right at the height we need it to be. It's barely, I mean barely kissing it. So that's perfect, especially because our stock is 3/4 inch. So that's good. Second step is that we're going to take this block, rotate it this way, and we're going to pull this fence in. And again, fence wide enough to support this bit. You don't want to be crashing into that either. We're going to kiss that blade, that cutting blade, right into the form. Pull this fence so that now we have 3 points of contact. So we have this touching the blade and the edges touching the walls of the fence. So all 3 are touching right there, and lock it down right there. And that is it. That is the entire setup of this. So technically, if I turn this router on and run this, it really shouldn't touch it. Don't do that. But that is really where you want this to be set up. Now, when we run our piece through, it is going to be hogging out. It's still going to be hogging out a decent amount of material. So, you know, push stick, recommended, ear protection, eye protection, all the fun stuff. But that's really all you need to have for the setup. And we'll cut one up and we'll show it to you. So now we're going to rinse and repeat pretty much for the other bit. Use the block, flip it over. So now we're using this profile for this bit. and you're just going to pull it up just like the other bit until the entire cutting surface touches the bottom here. So we're a little bit low. Let's raise this up until we get a perfect. So, I mean, that's it. The rabbeting miter is really, really sweet for those long grain, long runs. So, I mean, the results kind of speak for themselves. It's different. Again, it's different from the lock miter, just from the name. The lock miter locks it in with that tongue and groove. But for long pieces, if that waves, you know, this is just a better option. You have a ton of surface area for the glue. And honestly, a little bit of glue and some, you know, clamps in there, and that is super, super tight. And then on the outside, you still get no ply showing. I mean, this is especially good for plywood. Boxes, plywood, doesn't really matter, but 3/4 inch stock, absolutely perfect, all the way down to 3/8. So, highly suggest it. You can buy all these in store or HValleytools.com.